So here we are in the acre still that we've been walking through. This is one of the older sections of the acre, and what you see around you is a lot like what it would have looked like in the latter half of the 19th century. In the earlier half, there were those small wooden 10-footer houses that you would have seen, but as time progressed, they moved on to these different styles that you see here. When I was growing up, these houses here were actually pretty derelict, and it's where much of the poorer section of the population of the acre lived.
Dave, didn't you say that, of course, the 10-footers were in Lowell in many places, including the acre, but the Irish had housing before that that was characterized in a different way, the shanties, so-called?
Yeah, the Irish shanties, there was one just outside of St. Patrick's. There was small hovels, again, very close together, very little light going through, dirt roads, pigs ran wild. The Yankees, who wrote accounts of life in the acre, made it out to be a place that you wouldn't want to visit.
Well, so times do change, except one thing. Dave mentioned the dirt roads in the acre originally were on Cork Street. And in fact, Cork Street was one of the last paved roads in Lowell. It wasn't paved until the 1940s. Why? I don't know. But as Dave mentioned, these houses by that time were somewhat derelict, in bad repair. I think that what we're looking at here, and I think this is why it's fortunate that these buildings along Cork Street survive, is because they really are reminiscent of reflect what was here in the acre, really post-Civil War. The building, the far building on the corner there in yellow is with the mansard roof, was probably built in the 1870s. The building to my left behind me, the gray building, was probably a bit earlier, possibly even pre-Civil War. Quite a number of families lived in these tenements over time. And in fact, they are still tenements where families who are low income are living. And so some of these things really haven't changed over time. But one thing I do want to point out, and this I think for teachers is in fact a wonderful resource, and that is the federal manuscript census that you can find online. And I want to just note a couple of things here about the inhabitants of the house, of these tenements, the families who lived here in 1880. And so I have, for example, a page from the census that most of the children who lived in these houses were between the ages of 5 and 13, and most of them were at school, with a couple of exceptions. The youngest being a Michael Mahoney, age 11, who lived in this house on my left, who was actually working in a cotton mill. His father was a molder in an iron foundry, and I think that they characterize very much the working class nature of this community.